Welcome to the History of North America. I'm Mark Vinette. We interrupt our chronological series narrative to address a few of the many listener comments and questions. For expediency and privacy concerns, I use the initials of those who contacted me. All right, let's begin this Q&A session. Here is a text from listener WC. Mr. Vinette, in your fascinating and fun episodes 12 and 13, you enumerated many pre-Columbian transoceanic contact theories that have little support amongst the scientific and scholarly community. What about the Mormons? Good question, WC. Published in 1830 by the group's founder and leader, Joseph Smith, when he was 24 years old, the Book of Mormon, a sacred text of the Latter-day Saint movement, states that some ancient inhabitants of the New World are descendants of Semitic peoples who sailed from the Old World. Scientific consensus, however, rejects these claims. Archaeologists and other scholars have long probed the hemisphere's past, and they do not know of anything found so far that has substantiated the Book of Mormon. Viewer RT, who watches the YouTube version of this series, commented on Episode 8. The Olmec did not come out of nowhere independently. They came from the Nile Valley. They introduced various sciences, including megalithic carving and hieroglyphics. No one wants to tell the truth about anything. Well, I posted my response directly in the video comments section by suggesting that RT check out episode 12 on transoceanic contact theories, where alternative views for the origins of Olmec culture are presented. Superfan LK asks, what does the term eons mean, and why didn't you use it in episode 2? I could have, LK. The term generally refers to 1 billion years. I begin this series by investigating the deep timeline of the continent going back eons to discover the early pivotal environmental and geological forces that eventually led to the evolution and formation of the continent. Check out the YouTube version of episodes 2, 3, 5, and 10, where I included a chart referring to major divisions of geological time, subdivided into eras called eons. Listener CM sent me an email asking, in episode 13, you mentioned the word hypothesis. What is different between the terms hypothesis, theory, thesis, and fact? What do these 4 words really mean? Okay, let's take them one by one. Basically, a hypothesis is an educated guess, a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. A good hypothesis is investigated by many scholars and ultimately worth a full testing. A theory is a belief, supposition, or a system of ideas intended to explain something. A thesis is a statement, argument, or theory that is posited or put forward as a premise to be maintained or proved. And finally, a fact is something that is known or proved to be true and can be used as evidence. It is important to understand that these 4 terms explain how human knowledge advances cumulatively. Referring to my discussion in episode 15 regarding subtitles in history movies, AH says, I only like subtitles if they're not too slow. It keeps the eye away from the cinema. But as a linguistic nerd, subtitles improve my linguistic chops. Keep up the good work. Here is a follow-up question from RT, who asked me about kilometers or kilometers in our last Q&A session in episode 10. Dear Mark, why do you refer to mileage? Isn't the metric system understood by everyone? The modern metric system, the International System of Units, has been adopted as the official system of weights and measures by most nations except for a few, including the United States, the only major industrialized country where the metric system is not the predominant system of units. As you know, this series focuses on 3 great nations, and while Canada and Mexico have gone metric, I'm sure that the many Americans in the audience appreciate my use of U.S. customary unit system of measurements when converting metric weights and measures. And now a few comments, considerations, and reviews, starting with listener RR from India, who shares the following. The Western Hemisphere is full of glorious history, and your podcast is wonderfully presenting a fascinating part of it. You make it interesting and fun because you are a congenial and upbeat presenter. I also like your Instagram posts. CFP writes, I have had a listen to your show and found it interesting. It is nice to see someone doing a wider perspective on the continent, not just the USA. MP states, I really enjoyed your episodes. Very well done and informative. From Latin America, MEM affirms, juxtaposing the histories of Canada, USA, and Mexico in one podcast is brilliant. Thanks for doing it. MSP messaged, I started listening to your podcast. I love that you started with the geology. LL from South Africa emailed, our family listens to your delightful show every weekend. NT on Facebook declares, I'm currently listening to your podcast and enjoying it so far. FL scribbles the following from the UK. Nice job, and I have already shared your podcast link with family and friends. JW sent me this text. Just checked out your podcast, great work, and just seen that you also have a YouTube channel. TG at the Just History Podcast Facebook page declared, love your podcast. MC from Down Under in Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia comments, great podcast, mate. Very informative. Love the attention to detail. JW posted on social media the following thought. The French writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry once wrote, perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. I mention that quote specifically because I can't tell you enough how much I love Mark Vinet's History of North America podcast. It's a great show that engages deeply with historical topics in around 10 to 15 minutes per episode. Brilliant. Here is PA on Twitter. I love the way you present with such gusto and so concisely. From San Francisco, California, NS shares, hey Mark, listen to your talk on Apocalypto. Love that movie. My wife and I traveled to Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala several times over a 2-year period to check out Mayan archaeology. Good stuff. I'll leave you a good rating and review as well. DY proclaims, I donated to your podcast via PayPal and got my complimentary ebook copy of your first historical mystery novel, The Maesta Panels. I'm hooked and will move on to the next volume in your Denari novel series. You are a very talented writer. RP announces, I joined your Patreon group at the bronze level. Thanks for the ebook gift. SOS compliments, I'm already several episodes in and gave a 5-star rating. It's great work. Each episode is packed with information because Mark gets right to the point, and his clear presentation makes the material very approachable. RFW opines, I love podcasts and listen to many. Your series is now on my list of favorites. I also gave you a 5-star rating and good review with iTunes, Apple Podcasts. MJM posted this very nice review on Apple Podcasts. Get in, get out, learn a lot while you're there. I gave this podcast 5 stars because it deserved it. I hated history class in high school, and it was one of my lowest grades. If this host was my teacher, I would have majored in history in college. This podcast is fantastic, stays on the subject, is well written, and I promise you will leave each episode with more knowledge than you did when you entered the room. Here is an Apple Podcast iTunes 5-star review from GYG. Thank you for this wonderful family-friendly series. Your positive presentation is refreshing. Here is another 5-star Apple Podcast review. Excellent, concise show. I really enjoy this podcast. I suspect Mark puts a tremendous amount of effort into each episode considering how well they are done. I also really recommend his YouTube channel. And yet another 5-star Apple review. This podcast is very rich and brings a detailed perspective on topics of interest for all those who want to go beyond the usual information. Bravo. One more 5-star review. Informative and entertaining. This is a well-researched podcast that gets right to the point, presents the information in a concise manner. The host has a voice that's easy to listen to, and the episodes are well edited. Great sound quality. And one last 5-star review. An amazing listen. This is an absolutely lovely podcast. The information is presented in an engaging and thoughtful format. Mark takes the time to delve into topics that, even though they happened quite a while ago, are brought to life and are given a certain poignancy. Finally, Player FM USA has published its 50 Best North America Podcasts for 2021, and The History of North America is number 2. Wow! Also, my podcast is climbing the ranking charts of many nations, including France, Japan, Italy, Ireland, Vietnam, Russia, Canada, and Mexico. I started this podcast only 4 months ago and never imagined such a fantastic response from history lovers around the world. Thanks for joining me on this exciting adventure through time, exploring and focusing on the interesting, compelling, wonderful, and tragic stories of North America, its inhabitants, heroes, villains, leaders, environment, and geography. Thank you, folks, for all the good questions and lovely feedback. Keep 'em coming. Next time, we will return to our series narrative timeline and explore one of the world's titans of history, Christopher Columbus. I'm Mark Vinette, and I hope you're enjoying the ride.